Welcome back to Wednesday Night Recap. And we're still in the book of Revelation. We've got a long way to go. We covered one more church of the 7 churches of Asia Minor tonight. We looked at the Church of Philadelphia. And next week we'll look at Laodicea. That's the end of those churches. Then we begin to look at the timeline of the eschatology that's described in the book of Revelation, the end times. So, we'll get right to the summary. This may be one of the briefest Wednesday night recaps we've done.
It's okay.
Yeah. But basically, Philadelphia was a great church. I know that Pastor Hans, you struggle with that.
Yeah.
It's the Philly.
It's the whole Philadelphia thing. I mean, I get it.
He even called it Philly. You said
Yeah,
Philly one time.
the Church of Philly.
Yeah, really slipped out. That was so funny.
Yeah. Bias. That's okay, though. It's okay.
But it was one church that Jesus had nothing but commendation for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were doing a good job. He did mention they had little strength, but again, he would give them some inroads into the people passing through their city. One of the things I mentioned was that it was a city that was on a thoroughfare between Asia and Europe, and you had military marching through, you had merchants coming through, and more than likely that church had an influence on people who were passing through, not staying and settling, but they were reaching them with the gospel as they would pass through.
And one of the things you had mentioned is that, you had compared the fact that the message to them is, I know you have little strength, and how that, they're more than likely weren't a very large church. And how, most churches, the vast majority of churches are not large churches, and yet they can have an enormous impact, like Philadelphia had, which is encouraging to churches everywhere.
Yeah. And it was what we would consider a smaller church. But as I pointed out tonight, 80% of churches in America are about 80 people. That's an average church. 80 is not small, it's average. And any church can have an impact that's bigger than what they look like. We do it with World Missions. We do it with the number of ministries in our church. And I alluded to the first church that I ever pastored was the one that I started. And we only got up to about 60 or so after being there for 7 years. And we were having an impact in our community.
But you also likened it to, a church in a military town, where those people, they don't stay forever, but you pour into them for that time. And who knows, they go back and they get saved where you're at, but they take that on and hopefully evangelize where they go. But same thing with that church. That people pass through and, didn't necessarily stay. Because, what did you say? If everybody passed through the doors of this church over the last... We'd
have thousands and thousands of people if everybody stayed.
Right.
Yeah. And they're not, I don't think they're meant to stay. Again, 1 Corinthians 12:18. That God puts the parts of the body into the body as it pleases Him. So, I've always trusted in that.
Yeah.
So. Philadelphia, a great church. Great church.
You're not just saying that.
No, it's a great church. Yeah, absolutely. Forget the name.
You're saying Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philadelphia. No, I'm not gritting my teeth. The church in Philadelphia in Turkey was a great church. Not the Philadelphia we know of here.
Whoa, this is going on social media.
I don't care.
Be careful. Anyways. No, it was great. So next week we're going to wrap it up with Laodicea. And again, we're going to get into the end time events. And that's going to get really, really interesting. So I think one thing that people understood tonight, though, was that, if you do a little homework, the symbolism that's presented is very understandable.
Yeah.
If you just read it at surface level, it's like, what could that be talking about? But yeah, it's really very simple. The symbolism, like the pillar, you'll be a pillar in the temple, and the people of Philadelphia understood what that meant. And the other item was, Jesus said, I open doors that no man can close, and I close doors no man can open. Yep. We understand what that means.
Isaiah 22.
Yeah. So, anyways, look forward to seeing you next week. And of course, this Sunday's Easter. So hope you'll be in church for that service and bring someone with you too. God bless and have a great rest of the week.